For most Indians, a good cup of chai is comfort. It is accessible, which is why it is hard to think of chai or tea as something that is associated with luxury or something that is premium. Coffee, on the other hand, to quite an extent, can be like Starbucks, right? Which also kind of explains why Indians consume 20 cups of tea for every 1 cup of coffee. But we live in a time when opulence and luxury make us all go googly eyed. I may or may not be referencing a certain wedding that took place in Mumbai recently. So, at a time like this, in the Indian consumer market, premiumization is no longer just a choice. Even chai cafe chains don't really have an option but to take the premium path. But the largest tea cafe chain in India has chosen not to go where the wind blows. And Nitin Saluja, the 40-year-old founder of Chaayos, says that this decision is actually based on its customers. Over the last 2 years, nearly 200 of them have clearly indicated their unanimous opinion to the company. Do not become like Starbucks. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Snigdha Sharma, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rahil Philippos and I will come to you with one business story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Thursday, the 18th of July. When Chaayos started back in 2012, customer feedback was at the center of all its activities. But over time, with a million other things to worry about, it became kind of secondary. And then in 2022, about a decade after its launch, Chaayos managed to get $53 million in its Series C funding. But Saluja was still frustrated because the company had still not achieved profitability. It still hasn't, but it is close, by the way. So, in a meeting after the funding round, Saluja did something that left many surprised. At the time, Chayo had around 180 outlets across the country. Post-funding, the plan was to add another 150 outlets by March 2023. But Saluja halved that target. Even his colleagues were taken aback because his money was 4 times more than what it had received in the last funding round. People began doubting his intentions. But when my colleague Ronak Kumar Gunjan asked him about it, here is what Saluja told him, and I'm quoting, "It was pure frustration that stemmed from the scenario where every few quarters you start thinking that money in the bank will soon run out. And then you're back on that treadmill where you start doing growth-only activities to impress the next investor. We didn't want to lead that kind of life anymore." End quote. So, in the months after the funding, Chaayos became even more conscious. It targeted 2 more things. It reduced its marketing spends by 80% and also cut down its discounting by 50%. Saluja told us that the company is spending its lowest ever on marketing and has gotten rid of all the frequent discounts that it used to offer until mid-2022. Another thing that Chaayos did was to return to its customer insights. Instead of third party, Saluja actually hired 5 certified customer insight professionals to conduct surveys. As of now, they are coaching 5 other Chaayos executives from across verticals like operations, training, and new product development. The founders are also a part of this team. Now, talking about Chaayos and customer insights, wait, I will tell you what they learned from it in the next segment.
I'm excited to be back in the studio.
Yeah, I'm excited too, but actually kind of nervous. Okay, fine, let's do it.
Hi, I'm Rohin Dharmakumar and I'm here with my colleague and co-host Praveen Gopal Krishnan.
Hello.
And we're the co-hosts of a brand new weekly business podcast from the Ken called 2x2. Yup, like a 2x2 matrix.
Totally unrelated, but we are also both MBAs. But a little more relevant is the fact that we are actually business journalists first. So, the way this podcast started is that Rohin and I kept having all of these conversations about business. We kept talking about people, companies, and I'm really not kidding. So, whenever we would do this, We had tons of ideas and we had questions and patterns. And after some time, we just started thinking, why is no one else talking about it?
I'm going to give you an example. We've been talking about Walmart's two well adopted children, PhonePe and Flipkart, and how they're making some big strides in new markets, but importantly, in each other's markets. Flipkart has built a UPI app, and PhonePe has built a grocery delivery app. It's kind of like both of them are giant ships silently straying from their courses, and we wanted to find out at what point might they collide.
There are several stories like this, like why has all the meaning gone out of work? Or whether Zomato is overvalued? And which VCs have burnt money the most effectively? And because we are MBAs, we kept putting them into a 2x2 matrix. Because that's really the simplest way to describe trade offs, incentives, and outcomes.
With this podcast, we actually want to break all the rules. There is no script, no explainers, no answers, only pressing questions, hidden connections, and unexpected predictions.
And it's not just us. Every episode is going to have diverse and sharp guests and experts who not just raise questions about the biggest companies, people, and trends, but also help us get some answers.
We are incredibly excited for 2x2, our first premium subscriber only podcast from the Kin. But hey, here's the thing. Our first full episode is now out for free. We discuss the tussle between PhonePe and Flipkart, why one of them may have an advantage over the other, and where Walmart really wants them both to end up. You can find it anywhere you get your podcasts. There are links in the bio, or just type 2x2, that's TWO by TWO in your search bar and you'll find it.
We publish every single Thursday morning with a business story that we think is both interesting, pressing, and also a little exciting. That's at least what we are trying to do and our promise.
Chaayos asked a bunch of what if questions to its 200 customers, and that made it take the road less taken. In the world of chai or tea cafes, I mean. It decided not to go premium because these insights helped it reach two key takeaways. One, in most cases, its customer base overlapped with that of fancy cafes. And two, the purpose of the visit becomes the ultimate deciding factor for choosing one cafe over the other. For formal meetups, people like to choose cafes like Starbucks. But for casual conversations, they frequented Chaayos. And that is because, as per Chaayos user insights, customers felt more at ease at its outlets than they did at posh or premium cafes. According to Chaayos, the tea cafe's goal is not to be premium. Instead, it wants to be preferred as many times as possible. Which is why it focuses on keeping it simple and making small changes, if any, to keep customers comfortable. The idea is obviously to drive more footfall here. And that brings me to a fun fact that I had no clue about before doing this episode. In its early days, Chaayos wanted to speed up table turnover. So it installed uncomfortable iron chairs which drove many customers away. And that is when it learned that in this business, comfort is just as important as the offerings. Anyway, now, because it has chosen not to go premium, Chaayos has to make up for it with more footfall. Presently, an ideal Chaayos customer visits its outlets 3 to 4 times in a month. Saluja wants to take this count to 10 in the next 1 year. But for this, Chaayos will have to compete with its coffee counterparts. And meanwhile, its direct competitors like Chai Point and others are going premium. Also, another important thing to note here is that Chaayos food is more popular than its actual chai. I mean, food at Chaayos has more recall value. This is why exploring the B2B or business to business segment may help it. Chai Point is doing it. Chaayos also wants to provide tea vending machines for corporates. Like Anurag Bhamiditapati, the co-founder of Roast Tea, a B2B2C tea cafe, told us, the whole existence and premise of a chai company is proven if it can solve the problem of a good cup of chai at the corporate workplace. In fact, he went a step further and said that cafes should be the secondary focus for brand building. Maybe that is something that the Chaayos Insights team should look at next.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of The Ken, India's first subscriber-focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber-only offerings. A full subscription unlocks daily long-form feature stories, newsletters, and podcast extras. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on top of the Ken website. Today's episode was hosted by Snigdha Sharma and edited by Rajiv CN.